Comic Boom.
Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review Arisen issue 4. I've had a lot of time to read comic books. I'm sure all of us have. In this pandemic, we are taking time to get our bearings straight in terms of what's going to happen as we deal with the fallout of this coronavirus, COVID-19. I hope everybody is safe and sound and properly isolated and spending good time with, well, family. And I know that I converse with family through online anyway. One good thing about the different technologies that exist, you can actually, with Skype and everything else, you can actually spend time with family. And I've certainly done that with my family. And focusing on what's most important. So I hope everybody is doing their best to stay safe and stay healthy. And read comic books. Hey, what else are you going to do, right? I was feeling a little bit down. I didn't really feel... I find reading a lot of DC comics right now, and I know this isn't necessarily DC's fault, but I'm sort of reminded when Marvel Comics in 2017 was doing Secret Empire. While I didn't mind the Secret Empire storyline, it was sort of right in the midst of the post Donald Trump election in the United States, that controversy and the divisive politics, and that whole Secret Empire thing, the timing was terrible. The darkness. Arisen? I'm reviewing Arisen in the middle of a pandemic. Is that a good idea? I don't know. And the story's not ending. I don't know what I hate more, the coronavirus or the Batman who laughs. Because I got to tell you, this is the bad guy that won't go away. He's like the Mary Sue of bad guys. He always wins, even when he loses, because he gets beat here handedly by Lex Luthor. And then suddenly we're to believe that the Batman who laughs here somehow knew that the Justice League was rescued by the other powers in the universe. That they were rescued. And that somehow the Batman who laughs knows more than Perpetua does. Because Perpetua apparently didn't know that the Justice League was rescued. Of course she knew. How did she not know? I mean, she's all powerful. But apparently that wasn't explained at the end of Justice League 39 when the Justice League was defeated by Perpetua and were rescued by the Quintessence, and rescued by the Quintessence, consisting of the Phantom Stranger and one of the Guardians of the Universe, and a slew of others, unimportant. I just stopped caring. In any event, somehow the Batman who laughs kidnapped managed to cage the Phantom Stranger, who was a member of the Quintessence, and he discovered through that the Quintessence had rescued the Justice League and are now planning an attack against Perpetua. And because the Batman who laughs shared that with Perpetua decides to turn Lex Luthor back into a human being. Lots of things don't make a lot of sense in this issue. Overall, I gotta say it was serviceable, but understand what the writer here, James Tynion the Fourth, he really had to put, again, I've said this phrase so much with DC for the entire year of storylines, they're constantly putting lipstick on the pig of their stories. They screw up the stories, they mix up their stories, they don't even honor continuity from story to story, the writers don't communicate very well, and boy, is this ever, you see a lot of it here. Remember the evolution of Lex Luthor through 39 issues of the Justice League. He starts off, he chose to abandon his humanity in order to become Apex Lex. And he became an Apex Predator, essentially. And he maintained and kept his genius. And then he merged with Martian Manhunter. And then ultimately, when he merged with Martian Manhunter was pulled out of him. Martian Manhunter and Kendra Saunders' son, Shane, from the Sixth Dimension, replaced Martian Manhunter inside Apex Lex's body chemistry, basically, so that Apex Lex was still an Apex Predator. In other words, a mixture of human DNA and Martian DNA. So Apex Lex is really... he's an Apex Predator, essentially, because he's both human and he's got the DNA of a Martian, namely Shane, who is Martian Manhunter John Jones and Kendra Saunders' child from the Sixth Dimension. So that's his makeup. Somehow at the end here, because the Batman who laughs, despite being defeated by Lex Luthor, Apex Lex, the Batman who laughs convinces Perpetua to dump to get rid of Apex Lex and have him as basically a partner, because the Batman Who Laughs argues that he will make a better partner to Perpetua in defeating the Justice League and ultimately, I guess, ruling the multiverse, so to speak. There's so many things that are a little bit quirky here. Perpetua decides to essentially, rather than kill Apex Lex, she decides to change Apex Lex back into a human being. Now, and that's exactly what she does. Somehow when she does that, Apex Lex changes back into Lex Luthor, and just, he's naked, and his sidekick there, Mercy, the female business associate that he always has. Mercy is by his side, and she's witnessing all this. And it's interesting because the revelation of this is, we get into Lex Luthor's head. And there's all kinds of contradictions here, because you really get a sense that DC had no idea what they were doing. Whatever the original intention was regarding Lex Luthor and the portrayal of Lex Luthor, his evolution is all over the board. It's been a mess. It started off, he was Lex Luthor, and he chose to give up his humanity to become Apex Lex. He wanted that. And as the totality began to affect Lex Luthor, and he became more power hungry, and he saw a vision of himself in a future world where Lex Luthor was, where humanity had prevailed. It was really a future that he saw where Lex Luthor, everybody worshiped Lex Luthor. And he embraced that, and he became essentially embodied and engulfed in the totality, and Perpetua gave him that extra power, merged the Martian Manhunter with him. And so he became not only physiologically an apex predator, a combination of both a human side, Lex, and a Martian side, but also he became all-knowing. He became extremely intelligent, or at least that's clearly what was implied and what was expressly stated in more than one issue of Snyder's Justice League. And also, as far as I knew, Lex Luthor, Apex Lex, knew everybody's secret, and he knew all the secrets of the heroes and the like, and he knew all the secrets of everybody, because he was running around. He knew all the secrets of the villains. He was running around giving them, making all the offers to them. Remember, he gave all the villains an offer, and all those offers he was making them, he was giving them all these extra powers and everything, and yet somehow he didn't know that Clark Kent was Superman. Come on, give me a break. But in any event, so now it comes full circle. Only we now get another sort of an alternative explanation as to what was really going on. You can tell there's a lot of rewriting going on at DC, at least in my view. I view this as inconsistent, because now there's some little backpedaling on the motivations for Lex Luthor. Now we're to believe that Lex Luthor always had the same motivations. That from the very beginning on his journey to become Apex Lex, it was always about, ultimately he had the goal of putting humanity first. Just total, complete nonsense. That wasn't the case at all. If that was Lex Luthor's goal, he wouldn't have agreed to merge with Martian Manhunter and become an apex predator. If his priority was putting humanity first, he wouldn't have agreed to become an apex. He wouldn't have agreed to mess up his own physiology to become something other than human and become an apex predator in service of Perpetua. Suddenly his motivation seems to be different, and now suddenly he gained some independence, and now he shows defiance to Perpetua. He was her lapdog. Lex Luthor was her lapdog, Perpetua's lapdog, for a long time. Now all of a sudden he seems to have flipped. I view it as inconsistent writing and very convenient writing, and I feel it feels very forced to me, and it doesn't really work. Now, having said all that, let me tell you the good things about this comic. And I'm going to quickly delve into some of the things that bothered me about it as well. The good thing about it is at least it attempts to give some explanation. And because you have to put lipstick on the pig. Because the Year of the Villain has been a failure for DC. The only villain that has been remotely interesting, really, has been even slightly interesting as a villain in Year of the Villain has been Sky Tyrant. And that's only because Robert Venditti is doing something separate and has a decent storyline with Sky Tyrant in the pages of Hawkman. All the other villains are extremely disappointing. There was some potential there with Shazam, but unfortunately not adequately explored. Supergirl's been a disaster. Again, the potential there, but it wasn't adequately explored, despite the fact that we've had 5 or 6 issues. Jodie Howser has tried to make Supergirl interesting, but it's failed. Blue Beetle's been a disaster. Donna Troy's not interesting in the slightest. Commissioner Gordon has been a joke. It's been the members of the Secret Six, the ones infected by the virus, have been just disasters. All the other villains who've been made offers, we got Black Manta. What did he get from the offer? He got a Transformer outfit. Now he's got Black Mecha or some stupid thing. Anyways, just nonsense things. Cheetah got a God Killer sword. Anyways, the whole year of the villain has been very, very disappointing. We never learned anything new about the villains. What were the offers? What the offers that each of the villains accepted? It should have been a potential to help us learn something new about the individual villains. That was never the case. We never learned. There wasn't a single character that really evolved, and that includes, sadly, worst of all, Lex Luthor. Man, he's written so inconsistently, and not only did he not evolve as a character, but Lex Luthor has actually devolved as a character. He's learned nothing from his experience. He's learned nothing about himself, and worse, we readers how is it possible not to conclude that the journey that Lex Luthor has been on has not been a waste of time? So basically now he ends up naked at the end of this. He's thrown back, and this continues into death metal. So all this through 39 issues of Justice League and through 6 issues of Batman and Superman and 4 issues now of Hell Arisen. We're at the final issue of Hell Arisen here. And what do we end up with at the end of this storyline? We end up with just Perpetua is now teamed up with the Batman Who Laughs, and that leads into death metal. And Lex Luthor is just Lex Luthor again. And that's it. And Lex Luthor has a vision now that says we're all dead now. Well, it's because he has a vision, because he knows what Perpetua is capable of. But this is the same song and dance we've been getting all year long about Perpetua, Batman Who Laughs. The Batman Who Laughs can do no wrong. What's the point of... the Batman Who Laughs keeps getting defeated after defeat, after defeat, after defeat, after defeat. He somehow still wins and he comes back. And it's just relentless after a while, because it doesn't feel... None of these really feel like events, because none of them are completed. It's like they keep leading to another event. So we have Justice League for 39 issues, and then it ends with the bad guys winning. Doom wins. We then get 6 issues of Superman, Batman, and they fight the Secret Six. Superman and Batman fight the Secret Six, and that ends in a stalemate, and that goes nowhere. We then get 4 issues of Hell Arisen, where Lex Luthor battles Batman Who Laughs for 4 issues. Lex wins. Takes the Batman Who Laughs before Perpetua. Batman Who Laughs gives a speech, says, I can help you more than Lex. So then she banishes Lex back, takes away all his powers. So he's not Apex Lex anymore. He's Lex Luthor. He's just ordinary Lex Luthor. And now we're going to go into death metal. So none of these big events really feel that are particularly satisfying. And they're very derivative and predictable, because we know that there's never going to be an ending. And it's just really, really disappointing. I just really want it to end. Now, am I looking forward to death metal? Yes, I want to say yes. I was actually looking forward to Hell Arisen, but I've been disappointed so many times. It's like The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Is death metal going to have an ending? I don't trust Scott Snyder to say if it will. Will it actually have an ending? I don't know. It's bad, I guess it's sort of bad timing that we're going into a series called Death Metal in the middle of a pandemic. But hey, having said that, I'm also loving Deceased Unkillables, and that's a story about a pandemic. I just read a great story by Jay Straczynski called The Resistance. That's about a worldwide pandemic. I don't know what it is, but I love reading about pandemics. I just watched a documentary on the Spanish flu. It's actually interesting stuff. I just don't want to live in a world where we're actually having and experiencing a pandemic. But in any ways, I really hope that at the end of death metal, is it possible to get a little bit of hope? Maybe a cure for what ails us? All this darkness? A little bit of hope? A little bit of rebirth maybe? Maybe DC? I don't know. Guys, tell me what you think of Hell Arisen. Number 4, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter at Metropolis40. Stay safe. Stay isolated. Love your family. Read a comic book. And until next time, Comic Boom out.